Hello everyone and welcome back. This is Veteran Mountain Man, and we're going to do a little bit more on Saul Alinsky's Rules for Radicals. So, as I got into the book, he comes to a chapter called Of Means and Ends. And one of his primary arguments is that you cannot be arguing that means and ends that means are important to the result of the ends. And he states this specifically in this kind of fashion, and I'm going to quote him here. The means and ends moralist or non-doers always wind up on their ends without any means. The means to ends moralist constantly obsessed with the ethics of the means used by the have-nots against the haves should search themselves as to their real political position. In fact, they are passive but real allies of the haves. They are the ones Jacques Martin referred to in his statement. And then he quotes Jacques Martin. And one of the things Alinsky does then is to redefine ethics in his book, starting with his new first rule of ethics, which is one's concern with ethics of means and ends varies inversely with one's personal interest in the issue. And he then goes on to discuss this concept. He also states that one's concerns with ethics of means and ends varies inversely with one's distance from the scene of the conflict. And that is his second rule of new morals. And he specifically then uses this idea to justify why people look at the U.S. Revolution and the Nazi movements differently in history. And it's actually a very sickening description, the way he discusses it, because he tries to make it sound like the Declaration of Independence and the American Revolution was nothing more than a Nazi revolution or a fascist revolution in America. And I think perhaps he didn't quite understand the American Revolution in its entirety. He also then presents his third rule of ethics, of means and ends, is that in war, the ends justify almost any means. And he then goes on to try to use the Geneva Convention to justify this. Now, as a former soldier and someone who's had to live in a combat zone, your means are very important to you. And your ends can only be accomplished through means that you can live with. Because if you don't, you will end up killing yourself in the action. And so the fact that Alinsky is trying to separate these concepts and make it so that people don't actually talk about these things as intertwined has probably led to more deaths due to suicide by American soldiers and many other soldiers in other nations. Because the more that his information gets pushed, the more this information gets exposed. I mean, this was one of Barack Obama's most prized books. Hillary Clinton used this as part of her techniques for her run for presidential bid and her run for her senatorial bid. This is not new information. This has been out there for decades. And it's probably, in my opinion, at this point, more repugnant than even the Communist Manifesto, which I've done several deconstruction sets on, and you can find them in my playlists on my channels. I think perhaps we need to start looking at people who actually think that this kind of moral alteration is good or bad, and determine whether we should support them based on their understanding of the morals presented in this book and whether they agree with these new moral laws. The fourth code of morals that Alinsky represents is the judgment must be made in context of the times in which the action occurred, and not from any other chronological vantage point. So, this pushes back that morals and ethics are only subject to the time period in which the morals or ethics, in which the actions occurred, and that you cannot judge historical actions based on current morals, which is patently false. You can judge historical actions on current morals. You cannot punish historical actions based on current morals. And realistically, going back and looking at historical actions through the moral filters of modern morals actually helps you understand how much the world has changed and what society has grown into. The lack of understanding of historical insight actually damages society. Well, thank you all again for joining me on more of this from Rules from Radicals. Once again, if you're on VidMe, please upvote and follow if you like my content. If you're catching this on YouTube, which is a miracle because they haven't censored me yet, please like and subscribe if you're enjoying this. If you're over on Gab AI or Minds.com, please go ahead and follow me for more content and updates on a regular basis, as well as individual chats. I talk with people who follow me, and I will interact with you if I get a chance. Don't forget, think about your logic, think about your reasons, and think about the things you're doing. Thank you all again, and have yourselves a great day.